Well, good afternoon. My name's Ron Kramer, and I'm proud to be able to talk about a good friend of mine, Gary Graham. Gary and I were been friends since 1965, 1966, and we traveled together and rode a lot of miles together along with Ike Crimmins and probably several of other folks that are in the audience that I don't recognize because I haven't seen you for 50 years. But Gary was a great competitor, great bull rider, great friend, and people stood up here today, and I've heard the word motivated and dedicated several times. Gary learned how to ride like a lot of us did, riding cows. So he started riding his grandfather's milk cows, and I don't know, Gary, did your grandfather approve of that, or was that kind of behind the barn kind of a deal? But anyway, Gary started riding milk cows like a lot of us did, and riding cows or calves. And then when he was about 19 years old, he went to the bank and got a loan, and he built an indoor arena at Ross, North Dakota on the farm. And that's where his dedication started, because I remember going there, and he always had practice bulls. He had shoot and practice bulls and go out there in the wintertime, and the only difference between an indoor building, metal building in Ross, North Dakota in the winter and being outside is that the sun's not shining in the building, so, and the snow's not as deep. But it was cold, and Dean talked about Bob Hansen riding horses in the snowbanks, and Gary Graham rode bulls in a building, but it was in the winter and it was pretty darn cold because I was there occasionally, and it was hard to ride bulls with mittens on, but so you had a heavy coat, and he, but when nobody was around, he pulled his own rope, kicked the chute gate open, practiced by himself, which really made him good at getting off, because there wasn't no bullfighter out there. If he got bucked off or hung up or got off wrong, he was kind of on his own. So, but Gary was dedicated. He was extremely driven to be good. He went to Duane Howard's bull riding school. He was NDRA champion bull rider in 1966 and 1967. He won a lot of NDRA rodeos in those 2 years. And it's not easy to be an NDRA champion one time, but to do it twice is quite an accomplishment. He then traveled to some RCA rodeos outside the state of North Dakota and inside the state of North Dakota. All during this time, he was also training horses. He was in the Appaloosa horse business. He won 15 world or national championships in the horse business while he was riding bulls and competing in rodeos. And then after he retired from bull riding, continued to show horses successfully, and also marketed some of the highest dollar and best Appaloosa horses in the nation. He moved to Arizona quite a few years ago, and started and became involved in business in Arizona. He was a partner in a brokerage firm and raised $120 million in the years he was involved in the brokerage business for startup companies, and worked with folks including Frank Sinatra and Priscilla Presley in business investment. So Gary's been a successful bull rider, successful businessman in everything that he's put his mind to do, and he's been successful at. He's been a benefactor to the Hall of Fame, and with nights like we're going to have tonight, he owns a framing business in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he's donated very nice artwork, framed artwork, to the auctions in the past that have raised over $35,000 through his donations. So, said I've known Gary for 50 years. He's a great guy. He was a hell of a bull rider, good rodeo cowboy, always driven to be the best, and he's continued that. He still I believe he still competes in marathons. He's ran marathons all over the United States and placed and won in marathons. So Gary's here. I don't know if a lot of you folks probably recognize his name, but probably haven't seen him for a while. If you'd stand up, Gary, and be recognized, my good friend Gary Graham, and welcome. And I sure would appreciate your consideration of Gary in the pre-1970s rodeo category. Thank you.
Can't get rid of me. I was asked to speak on behalf of Gary, a good friend of mine. And Gary is one of the few people that I know outside of Steve Tomac that still have the physique and their form and are the same weight or lighter than they were 50 years ago. Stand up again, Gary, and you step out there, Steve, so they can look at you. Now, there's two specimens of people that know how to take care of themselves. Anyway, I was announcing rodeos back when Gary was rodeoing, and I got to know him real well. When the times when he was winning the bull riding, I announced a lot of rodeos, and he's a wonderful guy. And he's been gone a long time, so a lot of you don't know him because you haven't seen him for 40 years. But we're so glad to have him here today. And I include Gary. I would like to see him be nominated in this category. Thank you very much.